is getting ready.
It's a unique experience to be here on the island as it opens for the season.
It's the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. We'll look at tomorrow's Kentucky Derby forecast. Tomorrow is also Coronation Day for King Charles III. We'll look back at the weather for every coronation in the 20th century.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. For the third time in as many months, the Los Angeles area was rocked by a tornado. The National Weather Service confirms 2 tornadoes struck within 10 to 15 minutes of each other on Thursday. The tornadoes are rated EF0 with wind speeds of 65 and 75 miles an hour based on the damage in the Carson, Compton area. Rena Nakano is in Compton with the story.
Instead of watering wholesale plants, workers at New West Growers in Compton are busy cleaning up. Viviana Hernandez was at her family's nursery when dark, ominous clouds shrouded over Compton. She said strong winds lifted hundreds of feet of their garden tarp into the air, some getting caught in electrical lines above, starting a fire.
Oh my goodness. My grandma was outside when it happened, and it kind of blew her back. It was that forceful to blow her back, but I just kind of grabbed her and pulled her inside.
According to the National Weather Service, this was one of at least 2 wind events that happened Thursday morning just before 9. 3.5 miles west at the Del Amo Behavioral Health Systems in Carson, an EF0 tornado touched down just before 8:50 a.m., uprooting a tree and stripping away roof panels. Residents and businesses lost power for a few minutes, and at least 1 car was damaged, able to drive it away. Meanwhile, back at the nursery, Hernandez and her family are picking up whatever remains on their property. Still in awe that 1 minute of tornadic activity could obliterate their livelihood.
Honestly, it felt like it just went straight through this nursery and not just disappeared.
And we are in the middle of tornado season, but having them touch down in California is rare. Meteorologist Michael Enrenberg takes a look at what parts of the U.S. are most at risk for tornadoes.
May is a prime month for tornadoes across much of the central parts of the U.S. Highlighted in red is possible, and the darker red we see a high probability of strong tornadoes across parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, up into the upper Midwest. This all part of Tornado Alley. In fact, it's a good time to review the EF scale, the Enhanced Fajita scale, on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 is light damage with winds of 65 to 85 miles an hour, all the way up to incredible damage with EF5s with winds of over 200 miles an hour. EF2 is considerable, which is 111 to 135 miles an hour. And as an example, this tornado flipped some cars across Palm Beach Gardens in South Florida over the weekend.
And the investigation continues into that massive, deadly crash in Illinois on Monday. 7 people were killed on the interstate after a rare, intense dust storm blew across the highway, blinding drivers. Julia Rozier heard from survivors about the havoc that ensued when the dust storm hit.
19-year-old Hannah Ushman says her life was saved by a semi going sideways and keeping her car from going underneath another semi on I-55.
I was looking around. The semi-trailer was right in front of my face. I had hit my head off of it. There was glass in my face. There was glass in my hands. The steering wheel had been pushed down onto my legs, and I could not get out of my car. But there was no way I was staying in my car. I could hear the people behind me getting into car accidents.
Ushman says after her car was hit, she got out and knocked on the window of the closest car. She says she got in their car and called 911 as vehicles continue crashing into the dust storm.
Everything disappeared. You could not see anything. It got so dark outside, there was no light from the sun. It was completely dark. It just sounded like a bomb went off because of how hard people were hitting other people. You could hear the screech of the tires, and there were people going off into the ditches on both sides.
Ushman says this is the scariest thing that has ever happened to her.
It was straight up like a war zone. There was fires, smoke, the dust, all of it. It was absolutely crazy.
Valina Hames was traveling south on I-55 from Wisconsin to New Mexico. Unlike Ushman, she was able to stay in her vehicle.
Behind me, I couldn't see a lot. I mean, I don't know how many there were behind me, but a lot behind us. So there were about 10 in front of us. Pretty much everyone was staying in their cars.
Both Ushman and Hames said their cars are destroyed, and seeing the aftermath was emotional.
There were so many people whose lives will be forever changed from that.
And we are now less than 24 hours away from the coronation of King Charles III. And while the ceremony is steeped in tradition, it appears the weather will be as well. The forecast calls for heavy rain during the coronation tomorrow morning. Of course, the event itself is inside Westminster Abbey. The people outside lining the 1.3-mile procession route, of course, could get wet. As meteorologist Emily Gracie shows us, rain and Coronation Day go together like tea and crumpets.
Coronation days in England have been going on for centuries, and they always come with a twist: the unpredictable English weather. The last coronation took place a whopping 70 years ago when Queen Elizabeth II was crowned. Let's just say the weather didn't play its part. It was a dreary day with cloud cover, rain, and a temperature that could make you shiver even in June. A measly 11.8 degrees Celsius, that's 53 degrees Fahrenheit. It seems poor weather has been a reoccurring theme when it comes to England's coronation. George VI was coronated in 1937. It was a cool and cloudy day with some rain in the morning and evening. George V's coronation in 1911, which was cloudy and chilly, and Edward VII's coronation in 1902, which was cool and cloudy but dry with a little bit of sunshine. None of them, though, have been accompanied by ideal weather conditions. Thankfully, the ceremony has taken place inside Westminster Abbey for over 1,000 years. Still, the streets will be bustling with thousands of people to watch the newly appointed king's procession back to Buckingham Palace after the ceremony. So, let's hope the weather cooperates. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
Tomorrow is a holiday for many, the running of the Kentucky Derby. Historically, it's rained 47% of the time on Derby Day, but not this year. The action gets going today at Churchill Downs in Louisville for Kentucky Oaks Day, another big day at the tracks. The forecast calls for sunny skies and a high of 75. Much of the same for Derby Day, but temperatures should be a few degrees warmer. The odds-on favorite is Forte, but here at the National Weather Desk, we're rooting for Sun Thunder, whose odds this morning stand at 26-1. And it's Grand Prix weekend in Miami, just the second time the city is hosting the Formula One race. The weather, though, is looking good tomorrow for qualifying. Unfortunately, rain is in the forecast for race day on Sunday with a high around 80 degrees. With just 3 weeks until Memorial Day weekend, many seasonal summer destinations are starting to reopen. Among them, Mackinac Island in Michigan, which sits in Lake Huron between the upper and lower peninsulas. And that's where we find Allison Baxter this morning.
It's a unique experience to be here on the island as it opens for the season. We've already seen guests coming in on ferries, ready to go throughout the island, see all their favorite landmarks and all their favorite places. Take a look at this rainbow here behind us. Now, if that is not the promise of a great season here on the island, I don't know what is. Now, there's a lot of pride here right now as we are walking through the town, and that could have something to do with the fact that they were just rated the #1 summer travel destination in the U.S. This is what we're calling the season of the anniversaries. First, it's the 125th anniversary of the motorized vehicle ban. That's right, the island hasn't hosted cars since 1898. It's also the 75th anniversary of the Lilac Festival. In a couple of months, lilacs will be in bloom all over the island. And of course, we can't forget the 137th season of the Grand Hotel. On Mackinac Island, I'm Allie Baxter.
Reminder to check out our podcast, Off the Radar. New episodes drop every Tuesday. This week, Emily Gracie is tackling cold plunges, and if they meet all the hype that they've been getting online, you can listen to Off the Radar wherever you get your podcasts. And coming up, the National Weather Desk, we'll head to West Virginia to see how officials are working to save the endangered candy dartfish and a look at the less well-known dangers of spring runoff.
Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. That upper low that's been plaguing the Northeast over the last 5 days, that is releasing its grip on us today. Now, many of us will start with some clouds, perhaps a brief shower, especially in New York and western parts of Massachusetts. But that's going to move out by late afternoon or evening. The sun should make an appearance, and the sun will be with us throughout the entire Northeast on Saturday. Look for high temperatures to surge back into the upper 60s and low 70s. We're back near 70 for a high on Sunday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Temperature is going to be rising through the 50s by 9 a.m. Look at that, mid to upper 60s into the warmth of the afternoon. It's still a little below average of those 60s to near 70, but we've got baby steps to improvement. A drier day for our Friday. Fair weather high pressure becoming our main weather maker, although there still could be a spritz, especially across the Delmarva, Tidewater of Virginia into the afternoon. And it looks like even drier, warmer weather on the way for the weekend. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day today. Looking at cooler temperatures up in Nashville, 68 degrees, 66 Atlanta, compared to Mobile at 80 degrees, 92 in Tampa, 85 in West Palm, Charleston at 78 degrees. We have a little bit of chances for showers and thunderstorms across the area as we go through the day on Friday afternoon. It looks like Atlanta getting some rain around 2, 3 o'clock and some thunderstorms through Pensacola as we get into the overnight. A few spotty showers across the southeast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Thursday was May the 4th, also known as Star Wars Day, but meteorologist Alan Seals was lord of the solar rings in Mobile. He captured this precious halo, which takes shape around the sun or moon when there's a sheet of cirrus clouds and the light refracts off the clouds' ice crystals. Meanwhile, snow melt and water runoff impacting parts of Grantsville, Utah, a snapshot of recent flooding there.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
And we are less than a month away from the start of hurricane season, and this week is Hurricane Preparedness Week, a time when you can use for you and your home, get you and your home and your family ready. Meteorologist Jennifer Collins is joining us from West Palm Beach, Florida, with tips on how you can stay protected during a storm.
During a storm, stay in your safe place away from wind and water. It's important to get to high ground away from any flood-prone areas. If your house floods during a storm and you're still there, get to a higher place in your home. If that becomes too dangerous, don't go into the attic. Get onto the roof and then call 911. To protect yourself from wind, like a tornado warning, the best thing you can do is put as many walls as possible between you and the outside. An interior room without windows is the safest place you can be. And make sure to have wireless emergency alerts enabled on your phone, or download a weather app to receive weather warnings and other alerts. And always pay attention to the latest forecast, as conditions can change quickly, and even small changes in a storm's track can make a big difference. Remember that impacts can still be felt far from the center of the storm and hundreds of miles away from the coast. During a storm, listen to local officials and avoid travel unless ordered to evacuate. Evacuation orders may still be given immediately, so leave immediately if ordered. Follow recommended evacuation routes and be alert for road hazards such as debris and downed power lines. And never drive through floodwaters. There's no way to know what is in the water, and a car can even be swept away with only a foot of rushing water.
The candy dart is a fish only found in the waters of West Virginia. The small freshwater fish is on the endangered species list. But as Brandon Stover reports, officials are working with local fish hatcheries to increase the number of candy dart along the Kanawha River Basin.
It looks like a fish you would find in the tropics. But the candy darter can only be found here in our Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, I mean, this is an Appalachian fish.
But their numbers have rapidly fallen.
So they're federally listed as endangered, and endangered is the most critical level of that listing. They're being impacted by things like climate change, warming water, and so their habitat is receding.
Another darter, known as the varied darter, may not be helping either. It's been introduced above Canal Falls. Its native habitat is below the falls.
They are probably outcompeting those a little bit finer candy darters.
No matter the reasons for the decline in candy darters, something needed to be done. And that's why the White Sulphur Springs National Fish Hatchery stepped in.
So Nate Owens from West Virginia DNR, he and his crew will go out. They will collect the animals for us. They'll take the genetic samples, and we send those genetic samples. They're sent to West Virginia University. We want to propagate pure candy darters, and we also want to maintain as much genetic diversity as we can.
These fish grow much faster and have a very high success rate here compared to the wild. The hatchery first started spawning these fish in 2020 and were able to get some fish out last year. It's too early to know whether it's helping or not, but the DNR will survey and keep a close eye on populations.
What we're doing is we're holding the line. We're keeping this animal on the face of the planet.
This week, we've told you about floodwaters seeping over riverbanks in many different cities across the country, from several spots along the Mississippi River to places in Utah. Plenty of people are concerned about the increasing temperatures and rapid snowmelt that are causing some rivers to overstep their banks. Well, Zarin Zahn says spring runoff presents other dangers as well.
It's spring runoff season across much of the country right now, and rivers and streams are often running high, but you don't have to have flooding for spring runoff to become dangerous. Fast-moving water can easily knock you off your feet, even if it's not that deep, and the cold temperatures could cause you to go into shock once you get into the water. And that advice is not just good for you, but also your pets. Want to make sure your puppies don't want to jump into the water once they see it this spring. Wait until later in the year.
A new neighbor has moved into a Northern California neighborhood. A black bear, you can see it here. The black bear is going through trash cans, taking late night strolls, and also making appearances on surveillance video. One resident even nicknamed the bear Midnight. So just how bad is the bear problem in that town? Sade Brown went to find out.
Spring is here, and 2 weeks have gone by since the bear, Midnight, wandered into the small and quiet town where neighbors have come to adjust. But the concern still resides, rightfully so, that Monta Lytle tries to keep his family home and his little Yorkie, Brianna, safe.
And the third time was out in the front, and this last time right here.
The bear has made its way through fences and backyards, leaving some damages behind on the properties. California Fish and Wildlife says learning to coexist with wildlife is essential in the rural and flourishing nature of the North State.
But now we have, security footage capturing these images at 2 a.m. People are sharing them, social media, and it creates this perception, certainly, that there's more bears, more mountain lions, more coyotes than there used to be, when in fact we're just kind of capturing it thanks to how prevalent technology has gotten for each of us.
So what you're saying essentially is that there isn't an influx. This is just a normal behavior for the springtime.
It is pretty a normal behavior for the springtime.
Well, now that it's May, people are making summer plans to spend time outdoors. It's also Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Tick bites are the #1 way people are infected with the disease. With that in mind, we turn to Lexi Schroeder in Green Bay with a look at how you can help keep yourself safe.
Just being outside in general, I pulled ticks off of me plenty of times, but just never really thought anything of it.
Nielsen, who lives in Appleton, has been an outdoor adventurer since she was a little girl. Her favorite activities include fishing and hunting. She thinks she got Lyme disease from turkey hunting in the spring of 2020.
Major tiredness and fatigue. It was kind of almost as if I had the flu. That's when I got tested. It was positive.
Other symptoms of Lyme disease include joint pain, headaches, and the most common, a bullseye rash.
So a red rash that is getting bigger and spreading with a central clearing, normal skin color in the middle, that is diagnostic of Lyme disease. And that's the first stage of Lyme disease.
Most cases of Lyme disease occur during June and July. but it is possible to get Lyme disease whenever ticks are active. Ticks are active when temperatures are above freezing.
Very common among people who are in the woods a lot, if they're on the floor of the woods, mushroom hunters, turkey hunters, anybody who's sitting on the ground in the woods, very common to have tick exposure.
Dr. Zachary Baseman says there are multiple ways to prevent tick bites.
One of them is DEET, which is kind of the typical way that we've always used. My favorite is using permethrin. Permethrin is a substance that you can treat your clothing and gear with.
And now as we head to break, we leave you with sky views over London, England.
Well, good Friday morning. I'm meteorologist Phil Kelly. After a chilly and wet start of the work week for most of us, it's ending perfectly. Sunshine returning to the Ohio Valley, low to mid-70s from Columbus to Cincinnati. Do still have some lingering rain showers, and we'll see this disturbance kind of slide slowly to the east over the next 48 hours. And we'll see those rain showers right along the Mississippi River. Chilly in Minneapolis for your Saturday, 66, but hot, 81 in St. Louis.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Temperatures are starting off a little warm this morning, into the 70s for the most part. Cooler as you get up to the north, into the 60s. We'll be keeping an eye on a front and a dry line out to the west. Could see some showers fire up from Dallas all the way down into South Texas today. Temperatures are going to be warming up, heating up all the way into the 90s up into the Dallas area. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and TGIF. Friday here on the West Coast, and things are finally settling back down after a lot of heat and thunderstorms this week in Seattle and Portland. Back to more familiar, in fact, very cool, low to mid-50s between the Emerald and the Rose Cities. 81 out of Phoenix. You can see the heavier showers and thunderstorms still moving from Boise, Idaho, back towards Salt Lake City today, and more rain on the way for Northern California. And that's the scene from here.
Well, we know spring brings a lot of thunderstorms, but that also means a lot of high winds. Here to explain why we see more wind in the spring is meteorologist Christina Ernie.
Springtime is our windiest season, and there are a few reasons for that. One reason, our sun angle. There's a big difference between our sun angles in winter versus spring. In the springtime months, for instance, many of us see sun angles near 65 degrees, especially in the month of May in New England. In the wintertime months, that sun angle is only 28 degrees. As a result, our ground surface warms up much faster than it would in winter, creating a big temperature gradient from the cool upper level air and the very mild ground surface. Another reason is a big difference between temperatures between frontal systems or air masses that are moving into the area. Our winds increase when the air rushes in to replace the area of low pressure. In the springtime, we have an area of low pressure that will rise, creating this area of low pressure close to the ground surface. Eventually, that air, though, will be sinking when it cools, creating high pressure. It tries to replace that low, and the big difference of temperatures between the high and low system creates a big wind gradient.
And thank you so much for joining us. As a reminder, tonight is the last full moon of May, meaning we should not see another spring frost. So it's safe to get out and start those spring gardens this weekend. I'm Angela Brown. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.